Hey, this is Paul. I'm with my friend Eddie here, and if you look in the background, that is Paul Thompson's house. So you are Paul Thompson's neighbor, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And you got to spend, towards the end of Paul's life, you spent some time with him, right?
I was fortunate to share all that time, his later years.
And then he also gave you his Rixford Nitzel crosses, so you have his original seedling hybrids, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And how long ago did you get them?
Well, that was 07.
So he gave them to you in 07, and they've been here in your yard since then?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, well, let's go down the hill and let's go check them out. Okay, so look at these plants. So Eddie, these are 18-year-old plants from Paul Thompson. These are his hybrids, right?
Yes.
And so what did he tell you, like, why he wanted you to have them, or he just brought them to you one day, or could you share the story?
Well, me and my wife, we always visit Mr. Thompson, Paul Thompson, and Helen, Mrs. Thompson. They were neighbors, and it was a neighborly thing to do. We'd go say hi and check on them and see how they're doing and stuff.
And they were getting in their, what, late 80s, early 90s?
No, they were in their 90s.
In their 90s. So would you...
Or late 80s and then 90s, because, let me see, 96 is when Mr. Thompson passed
away at 96. And so you would help him, you'd go grocery shopping with him and just help out his family, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
So we would go see Mr. and Miss Thompson, and they were very loving people, and we had kids, so they loved seeing our kids, and especially Miss Helen, Mrs. Thompson, Helen, she always fussed over the little ones.
Okay.
They never had any kids, probably because of their missionary background.
Yeah, they worked in the missionaries a long time ago, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Do you remember where they went?
Well, they were in India a lot.
India, that's
what he always talked about India, and so I guess they were moving around, and in the Marine Corps too. So they didn't have any kids. I don't know if that's the reason, but that has a lot to do with it.
And Helen just loved your family.
Yes.
You guys got really close. And so what? He just brought you his seedlings one day, or what size were they? Because they're huge now. These are 18-year-old plants.
Yes. He had them in 15-gallon buckets up there. And he asked me, Eddie, what do you think? Because, we always talked about, he always shared information on everything that he did. And probably for a comment, and, we just had conversations. And this was one of his biggest pride and joy. Really?
Yes. So he, how so? Did he just, did he tell you, or did you just sense it?
He told me, because he was always experimenting. He said, I'm trying to get the best variety, and I'm making kind of my own too.
So he knew that what he had created when he crossed these two plants, a white-fleshed and a guatemalensis, he knew that there was something special about these.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he always tried to get the best characteristics of this and the best characteristics of that, and try and produce a better variety that had both of those qualities.
And so you were sort of his backup, because he grew on the other side of the hill where it's colder, and you're on this side where it's protected. Yes. And you could see they're still here today, 18 years, and you don't even water them much, you say. You just kind of let them be, right?
Right.
And they fruit for you every year?
They do, yes. We collect a lot of fruit from them, and I don't even trim them the way you're supposed to, because I've been busy.
So you don't prune them, you just let them grow naturally, just like this?
Yes. And these were actually, a lot of them I had up there, and I moved them over here because I was getting overcrowded over there. And so just to make space up there, we moved them down here. And so they're adapting to a little bit colder, because it's colder right here than just a few,
Just up the hill, a little ways is warmer.
Just about, I don't know how many feet, probably 200 feet.
And how many years ago would you say you moved these?
These, maybe 3 years ago.
Okay. Man, they're huge.
Yes. They do well. The soil around here is really good.
Yeah, it looks like it's rich in DG, kind of DG soil.
It does.
But loamy, it's kind of...
But it's good soil, though.
So you grow them in the ground, no problem?
No problem.
We have tons of citrus and fruit trees here as well.
Yes.
And so he just gave them to you and just said, take good care of these, or?
Yes. I don't know. I hope it's not because he felt obligated. It's just because he saw that, I was interested, and we always talked about it, and he'd ask me questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'm not a professional at anything, but I just enjoy listening to him. And he made a comment one time, Eddie, I'm doing all the talking here. I said, well, Mr. Thompson, what am I going to teach you that you don't already know? I don't know half the stuff you know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather listen to you. I'm not an expert on anything.
And you would take him and you shared special times. You told me his favorite thing was a Burger King shake, right?
Just a regular vanilla milkshake from Burger King. That one was his favorite.
So it just made his day. That's all he wanted. He was
a very simple man. He loved it, and so that was a ritual. I'd pick him up in his old Ford, 65 Ford, and then we'd drive up to Fallbrook to that's the closest Burger King right there, and we'd get a milkshake, and then we'd go get a haircut on base, and then we'd go to the commissary and he'd do his shopping for the month,
So for the month, he was shot for the month, and you said he was really frugal and
he was frugal, and he didn't splurge on luxuries, anything like that. To him, plants were the luxury.
So that's just was his passion and just what he shared with you.
Yes.
Wow.
That's what he loved. He loved plants.
And what I think is so special about you is you have his collection that before they died from the frost. Because do you remember how many he gave you? I thought you said it was like 7. Do you remember?
It was more than 7.
More than 7.
I think he gave me a couple of more than one of each.
Okay, so a couple backups.
Yes.
Yeah, because when we went through, I think we found 9 or different pots. But they're all just from his crosses, right? He just those are the only ones you have in this.
These are from Mr. Thompson.
Okay, he just gave them to you.
Yes, he said, Eddie, would you like some of my dragon fruit? And I said, I'd be honored. And I think he had a plan, because I think he knew that he was getting to his later years. And then,
where he was going to have to sell his house, right? And after Helen passed away.
Yes, and he wanted to have meaning, not just get lost and get bulldozer down or whatever.
Yeah, get sold in Pine Island and renamed as something else.
All of the above.
Which makes me really upset because when they did that, he died not knowing that those were his plants. And so for people like us, it's great that we could kind of keep his memory alive and share these plants and just have them be the originals.
Tell the history,
the history
where they came from, and he put a lot of man hours on them because it's what he loved, and he loved perfecting them.
That was just his passion.
And he documented everything.
Yeah, you said that he would write down even like how much fuel he would fill up in his truck. Just everything. He had all those details.
He would log in everything.
Do you know whatever happened to those logs?
I probably still have.
So you have some of his things still.
He gave me his truck.
Okay, and then you also have his dog tags and some of his life as a Marine.
Cover.
And you were a former Marine as well, right?
Yes, I retired from the Marine Corps in 06.
So he probably had that connection with you as well. That's where you had your.
And, yes, Marines are family.
Yeah.
Even if you're not blood, sometimes I feel like Marines are tighter than some blood. Not everybody, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a connection you had that you guys. That's why you're so close.
Have an understanding. It's a sacred bond, I guess.
Well, I would love to go show that giant plant up the hill. And while we head up there, could you share that story about how Paul broke out of his what's the proper term? Old retirement home? Or?
Yes. He eventually got moved into a retirement home. And it was kind of against his will, but Mr. Thompson, was asked to sell his place, and he didn't want to. And then he asked to die in his home.
That's what he wanted to.
That's what he wanted to. But unfortunately, they broke their promise, and they said, we're going to have to move you because I want my sibling to move into this house. And it broke my heart. And as a matter of fact, one of the, what do you call the people from the county? That take care of people. Oh, the
hospice people or
no,
the county nurses type of thing?
County, there's
Health and Human Services?
Yes.
There it is.
They came and told him, Mr. Thompson, you don't have to move here if you don't want. So, well, I gave him a word because Mr. Thompson was a man of his word. And he said, I'm moving, So we moved him we loaded up everything in his truck and I moved him into Silvergate up in Fallbrook.
So you moved him. You helped him. Wow.
Yes.
How was he? He must have been really sad. Was that a hard time?
I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it. Yes. This is where he built that house. Him
Hey,
and
you
his
said he
wife,
built it by hand, right?
by hand. His wife mixed the mortar in a hand concrete mixer. It has a pulley on it, but no motor, and it has a handle. And she would mix the mortar and load in the wheelbarrow. And while he was over there stacking block, building the walls, she would make sure he never ran out of mortar.
Wow.
That's how they were.
What a team.
Yes, they're very, very tight. They are the epitome, I think, of a couple.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. But so you moved him up there, and then he broke out once, and how did that work?
He was over there, and he goes, Eddie, I need to get out of here. I'm not used to a place like this. Can't even do anything without...
Yeah, he probably couldn't even garden there, right?
Can't do anything, yes. And here, he lived on his 5 acres, and he went wherever he wanted every day. He was up early, and he had his routine here. Mm-hmm. And it's hard when somebody kind of forces you to leave that behind.
Oh, yeah.
And so
did he call you or just show up?
No, I mean, I always went to check on him.
Oh, okay.
He was my friend, and and I went over there, Mr. Thompson, everything, are you settled in, everything okay? And I need to get out of here. And I said, all right, let's go out the back. So I didn't sign him out. I took him. And he was kind of loving it, because he goes, oh.
Yeah, the thrill and the danger, man. He's escaping.
That's what it is. Yes. And he kind of moved like he was running, but, at that age, you don't run anymore. But he goes, come on, Eddie, let's go. And we got in the truck, and we went and got a shake.
So you sort of broke him out for a shake?
Yes.
And then did you take him back?
I took him back in the evening, yes.
Okay. Were they upset, or were they okay?
They were, yes.
They got upset
They
at
said,
you?
don't ever do that again. I said, we need to keep track of, everyone here, for their safety and yours.
I bet you would. That was probably one of Paul's favorite memories towards the end, man. Just to break out of there and have some time with you, get a shake.
It was great, and I enjoyed it too. I always loved listening to Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, you just have such an affinity and respect for him. I mean, just when we talk off camera or on camera, it's just the way you speak about him. And he was like the epitome of a kind, moral, righteous person, it seems like.
Yes, and he was very frugal, and he was just down to earth, basics, common sense. That's the type of person.
And he helped his neighbors around here? You guys were very neighborly?
Oh, yes. And that's the way he was. He was always looking too, and said, I wonder how they're doing and how are they doing. He was always caring, very caring. And him and his wife, even in their 90s, they would walk from the house up there all the way down here to the street, which is quite a bit. And then
in their 90s, this far?
Yes,
wow.
And back up the hill, hand in hand. Yes. Wow. Because their mailbox was down here at the bottom.
Yeah, and that's a steep hill too. It's not a tiny hill.
And he wasn't breathing hard either. And like me and you, if we go up that hill,
we get winded.
We're going to get winded. He was just conditioned.
So he was in good shape even up in his 90s, huh?
He was in good shape, yes.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And Mrs. Thompson was in good shape too, other than, when dementia got her.
And the dementia at the end must have been really hard. That's when they were writing the book, Pitahaya,
yes.
with Leo Manuel. So I got to see the basement where it was written. It was pretty awesome. Well, let's head up the hill and check out that beautiful plant. And you said that this summer you got some fruit. You don't pollinate, but you got some fruit off of them.
We got plenty of fruit, yes.
And you remember that they were magenta fleshed, and you had a pale pink one, which was probably 4S, which was very light colored flesh, yes. You said? Uh-huh. Yes. And they set fruit on their own?
They do. Uh-huh. They do.
And you have a bunch of citrus and mangoes and things, but most of these you said were not from Paul Thompson. A lot of these plants here?
Right. These trees, they're grafted. He did have a hand in grafting them, of course.
Yeah, didn't you say that he went to Mexico and grafted?
He'd go all the way down to Mexico and graft avocados in his 65 Ford pickup.
And at what age was he doing this?
He was, the last time he did that, I can't remember how old he was on the last trip, but he went all the way down to Mexico and all the way up to Oregon.
And he just would help people and graft for them?
They would hire him to come graft their trees.
So they hired him, and he was an expert grafter for trees.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I remember we practiced in his kitchen when he was having tea. He had a ritual with tea. He'd fill it up to his cup all the way to the very top. He had a little bit of milk. And
Lipton tea, right? I'm going to try this when I go home. So
Lipton tea,
and hot tea with a little bit of milk?
hot tea and then a little bit of milk on top. And he'd fill it until right before that first drop would spill over, and he'd stop right there. And
that was just his thing, huh?
Yes. Another thing he did was, you know how when you pull the tea bag out and it spins?
Yes.
He would count the number of times they would spin to the right and how many times they would come back and to the left. Yes.
Man, he's just very meticulous. He liked a lot. He was data driven, it seems like, huh?
Very, yes. Talk about data analysis. That was Mr. Thompson, yes.
Man, I wish that some of these records were still around. I mean,
I'll see what I can
if you
dig
have
up.
them, I'd love to look at them.
Yes. You see these oranges right here?
Uh-huh.
Like that looks like a regular orange, but my favorite are the wrinkly ones. See how the skins are wrinkled on them?
Oh, yeah.
And there's some here that are even very wrinkly.
So what's causing that is just the optimal ripeness?
It's the type of breed that it is.
Okay.
Because you don't find them at the store.
No,
right?
I've never seen it like this. I mean, this is a navel, right?
Yes. All these are navels, but he did come over and graft.
So you have some
Yes.
of his citrus.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know what they're called, but these are my favorite. The wrinkler, the more wrinkly the
It's
skin
probably a
is.
different variety of navel because there's Washington navel, there's different ones. So you still get to enjoy fruit from Paul years
Yes.
later.
And
He's touched this plant.
in March, you come back and get some oranges. Oh,
That's when
the
they're ripe?
sweetest, the juiciest, yes.
Okay.
You need a face shield.
Really?
Yes,
They're just gonna spray
they
you.
explode. They explode.
Wear some goggles.
And they're very sweet, very, very sweet, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I can't explain how sweet they are. You come taste them and you tell me how sweet
I
they
will. I'm going to come back here, Eddie, in March. I'll have to trade you.
are. I mean, you can eat them starting November, but my favorite time is March.
I mean, you have pomegranates, mangoes,
We have all kinds
mulberries,
of
guavas.
just about every type of fruit here. We have some, what do you call those? They look like grenades. They're called, over in the back.
The big guavas?
No. Chirimoyas.
Cherimoyas. Okay, you have cherimoyas too.
Chirimoyas and different types of pomegranates, the white pomegranates and the red.
Yeah, the whites are pretty good. What's your favorite? Out of all your fruit here, which ones are some of your favorites?
Well, the oranges, the wrinkly oranges, and these guayabas. There's about 10 different types of guayabas here. And the one over there by the peacocks, I think those are my favorite.
Those are your favorite?
Yes. Even though they all have different tastes and they're all delicious, I like this one because of the texture, because of it has the right amount of whatever. But yeah, that one over there. But all these are delicious. You go grab, oh, this is delicious. And you go, oh, this is more delicious. Oh, they're all delicious.
I could just walk around here and eat your food forest all day.
And over there's some finger limes.
Oh, you have a finger lime.
I think we have 3 of them.
Do you like them?
Yes.
Yeah, I like them too. They call it it's caviar, right? The citrus
Yes,
caviar.
exactly. When you
I
bust
see
them
'em.
open. Yeah, there's some.
From Australia.
Yes.
Oh man, walking through here, I was just looking at your dragon fruit. You have a plethora of different mangoes.
And I don't know if you've ever tasted guavas, but you feel free to.
Oh, I love guavas.
Yeah, try it.
Yeah, I could just smell them from here. Wow, falls off.
Yeah, they're very fragrant and very tasty.
But these are not from Paul. You're a fruit grower yourself, or do you think some of these could be from Paul?
They could be, yes.
I mean, he's a neighbor. So
Yes. And what happened, there were some big trunks here, and then we had a big tiger fig down at the bottom. The trunk was about like that.
Oh wow.
And I think that came from Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, it probably did, because not too many people have those, especially that big. Oh, this is delicious. Where's that huge dragon fruit? Let's see it up the hill.
Okay. And
Now,
then,
if somebody's a big fan of Paul Thompson, would you be willing to sell some cuttings here, even though you don't have them you don't know which ones they are? They're all from Paul, but
Yes.
they're very historical. So is that something you'd be considering to do in the future?
sure, I wouldn't be opposed.
Okay.
As long as they're respectful and everything, especially if they, if you recommend them, yes.
Okay. Sure. All right.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be happy to, because to me it's just such a historical collection. Nobody's shipped them across to Florida and renamed them. They're probably free of CVX, because I don't know if you know that, but a big problem is a lot of these cacti are getting CVX. It's about 80% of cactus in California have it.
Wow.
And so your plants are just unmolested over the years. They've just sat here, right?
They've been doing good, yes. And I used to have some of the ones that are down below, I had them up here.
Oh yeah, so I remember there's one I got a cutting from right in this tree,
Yes.
in the pomegranate.
That one I haven't moved.
And I feel like the cold air goes down that hill a little bit, but
yes,
this is probably the best spot. Look at the size of this one. Huge.
yep.
It's really happy. And that thing must be what? Close to 20 years now? 18 years old?
About that, yes.
And are some years do they more?
I cut a bunch off too.
Oh, you have, so you just prune it.
Yes.
And you could tell that they will set fruit, but
They'll give fruit too.
some evidence it's self-sterile though, just because a lot of these have aborted. So maybe I'm gonna have to give you a couple different varieties so you can let the bees pollinate if you want a few
Okay.
more. Maybe maybe Paul's 7S and 8S you might want.
All right.
But
So-
wow, what a plant.
Yes.
So are there any other stories, Eddie, that you'd like to share or anything you'd like to tell us about Paul Thompson, the late Paul Thompson? I really appreciate that you've been caretaking his plants and just to share these stories, but is there anything you want anybody to know?
Well, Mr. Thompson, other than he was an awesome individual, awesome person, awesome friend, whatever he wanted to do, he would do. He was very driven. He was very dedicated to. Once he made up his mind, and he loved nature. He loved plants. He loved trees, and he loved making his own too.
And he loved sharing it with his rare fruit growers, right? I mean,
Yes. He was very selfless. He gave to everyone,
So very
But,
giving,
very giving person, yes.
I feel like there's not too many people like that in today's society.
No. And, he did have a sense of humor. Most people wouldn't think so because it looked like he was always stern and grouchy and, reserved. But no, he was quite the opposite.
Yeah, I heard you told me that you got him to laugh a few times, right?
Oh, yes. I was kind of scared too. I go, is he hallucinating now? Because most of the time he didn't laugh. And as a matter of fact, I know a lot of people that knew Mr. Thompson, and that's what they said. They said, we never see Mr. Thompson laugh. And he laughed wholeheartedly. And it even scared me. Yes. So I knew the true Mr. Thompson.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we appreciate it very much that you're willing to share this. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge and experiences. We appreciate you, Eddie. So thank you, sir.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
And wherever he may be. Yes.
Yes, and all these beautiful plants due to him and his impact.